which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carrie, could we have a roll call?
Sure. Councilmember Shippers?
Here.
Ellenboss?
Present.
Ingalls?
Here.
King?
Here.
Mayor Filkins?
Here. Okay, and at this time, if we could have a motion to approve the agenda as presented this evening?
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Councilmember Ellenboss?
Yes.
Ingalls?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Shippers?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes, motion carries. At this time, we'll open the floor for our first public comment. We do ask if you come forward, if you would please state your name and then write your name and address for the clerk. That would be greatly appreciated. And if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening. Randy Lindell, 201 Howard, Cadillac. Well, I know it's almost Christmas and a New Year coming, and we'll be swearing in a new council, or the same council, after last election. And again, I'd like to bring up an ethics pledge by Ingalls, if everybody knows or has seen that on Facebook. Everybody?
Mr. Lindell?
Yeah.
You need to address the council. And
Okay.
Thank you.
So on October 9th, 2017, while running for the city council, Ingalls released a written ethics pledge on his own Facebook, promising to conduct himself with integrity, to treat others with respect, and to refrain from personal attacks. In the run-up to the November 2021 election, T.I. Shepard's incumbent seat council member Robert Ingalls engaged in a series of negative personal attacks against Shepard's opponent, Matt Reinertsen. Councilmember Ingalls personally attacked candidate Reinertsen, if I'm saying that correctly, in several large newspaper ads, spending almost $2,000 of his own money. And to make his point and spend even more, filing Freedom of Information request from the city of Cadillac to obtain a less than flattering city police video of a disagreement that Matt had with the city police near Lincoln School weeks before the upcoming election. Ingalls distributed that same video to the Wexford County Democratic Party, on which T.I. Shepard is the chairman. Their treasurer, Rowan Winters, was the individual who initially posted the police video, while Shepard stood by and then embraced these dirty, desperate politics in the days before the election. The video that Ingalls obtained from the city police was ultimately widely circulated online before the election to specifically personally attack her opponent and gain a political advantage to the quorum who run our city council. Ingalls' actions was pathetic, and he should resign from the city council at once, because he broke his own pledge. He has broken his written ethics pledge by his personal attacks on a local citizen, a veteran, and a candidate for city council. Ingalls also delivered the same video to TV 9 and 10 and to the Cadillac News, but both organizations demonstrated ethics and good judgment and turned down this despicable attempt to further attack Matt.
Mr. Lindell, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I am Linda Missler. I live at 741 Linden Street, and I'm married to Brian. So I'm here on behalf of proposals D and E on the marijuana facilities. And the reason I have is because the proposal to limit the facility from 1,000 feet and lower it to 0 feet makes no sense at all. In fact, I can't even think of how long it's been in effect, and yet you want to change it right now. So this would allow a possible facility next to neighborhoods, and not only on Linden Street, but on Wright Street and 1st and 2nd and 3rd Avenue. Okay, these, when it was first proposed, these marijuana grow facilities would be in the industrial park, and now it's in industrial zoning. A little bit different. And I visited the Everett facility, as some of you know, and as soon as I was at the gate, I could smell it. My husband could smell it. The city manager could not smell it for some reason. So when we knocked on doors yesterday, the neighbors were unaware that this variance that could possibly affect their property when they live next to an industrial zone, they could literally have a marijuana growth facility right in their backyard. Okay, I don't know about you, but that does not help your neighborhood a bit. So many of these people had nice porches. We saw them. They've got rugs out there and chairs, and they sit on there with their decorations, and everyone sits on their front porch. I've seen it as I bike around. But if you put a grow facility next to a neighborhood, they're going to have to smell that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year until they get their butt in here and say, we don't want it anymore. But you, as a city council, have a right to protect these people. Why would the city manager propose this variance? Does he not care about our people here? You are the highest paid individual here, and yet you are trying to put something that will affect these people long after you're gone. You make more than the fire chief, and you make more than the police chief, but I would call them in an emergency. I would not call you. So, as you said before, it stinks over there anyway. Well, if it stinks right now, it's not going to get any better if you get a grow facility close to those neighborhoods. And by the way, if you put it by the solar panels, you'll be about 2 blocks from our high school. Now, right now, they walk down the tracks and they're smoking. But what do you think they're going to do when there's a grow facility there and they've got a friend working? They're going to get weed. That won't help at all. And then this whole proposal to take away this 1,000-foot variance, it smells. It smells, it smells, it smells, and it smells like you're taking a dump on our front yards over there. And I don't like it at all, and no one that we talk to, you've never seen such anger in people. You've never seen such disbelief that you could even consider dropping that 1,000-foot variance and putting it, possibility that it could be put there. So if we can't be protected from our city manager, I want the city council to protect our properties and how it smells over there. Okay?
Good evening, Council. As she just said, I have concerns about all this. I live on 3rd Avenue, and I don't want to see a grow facility in my backyard. Now, he said 1,000 feet, now it's 0 feet. I'm here on behalf of my neighborhood. Have your grow facility wherever you want, but don't put it in residential areas. She's correct. I did some research on that. I'm in Everett. It stinks. It smells like cat urine. It's ammonia. I don't want to be on my front porch in the summer smelling that. My neighbors don't either. I'm telling you now, I don't care about the recreational marijuana. I don't care about the buildings. You can sell it. It's great revenue, great tax revenue, but the grow facilities, those are the ones that need to be away from residential property, away from residential neighborhoods. I'm an amateur radio operator. If they put a grow facility in there, it's going to destroy my hobby. That's just one aspect of it because it's so close. And I'm sure it's going to ruin all of the other things because they use grow lights, you've got interference, all of this kind of stuff going on. I don't want it. My neighbors don't want it. Build it somewhere else. Find an empty warehouse somewhere or an empty factory and put it there, but not in residential areas. I'm telling you this right now. All right? That's all I've got to say. Have a good Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, we'll close public comment and move to the approval of the consent agenda. And this evening, we do have, as part of the consent agenda, the minutes from the regular meeting that was held on December 6th.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Ingalls?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Shippers?
Yes.
Ellenboss?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes, motion carries. I'll go ahead and turn it to Marcus for our
Okay.
public hearings.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. We do have several public hearings on your docket this evening. The first three I'm very excited to announce is regarding a new potential mixed-use commercial residential project for downtown Cadillac. With us this evening is the developer, along with the city's Brownfield consultant, and we also have a member of our Brownfield Authority in the audience as well, Mr. Brian Warner, and our consultant, Mac McClelland. The way that we have put together or packaged the presentations this evening has been done so in an effort to try to consolidate and be most respectful, not just for City Council's time, but also for the public. The first three public hearings are all regarding the same project. There will be one presentation that will provide everybody with the foundation of what the project is about, what the incentives are about, and then at the conclusion of that presentation, it would be appropriate for City Council to open up the very first public hearing. Like you would normally at the conclusion of then the public hearing, certainly City Council can ask questions. You can certainly ask questions during the presentation as well. And then we would certainly like a motion for a vote. And then open up the next public hearing and then the next public hearing. But understand there just won't be additional presentation materials for each of the other two. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mac McClelland to step forward and provide the slides, if you could.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speaking of respect of City Council time, it's just a 2-hour presentation, so I'll be.
Yeah. You all have a printout as well, by the way.
And no one has entrusted me with this very valuable advancement, so I'll try not
Lee, don't let him run away with
not
it.
mess that up. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, Lee Richards is the developer, so sorry. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. As Marcus said, I'm Mac McClelland. I'm the consultant for the Brownfield Authority, representing the Brownfield Authority in the city in Brownfield Matters, and here to talk about the 423 North Mitchell redevelopment. Pretty exciting project that's being proposed by Mr. Richards and his team. I just want to kind of go through a couple of things, talk a little bit about the project, and then maybe afterwards Lee can talk a little bit about the project as well, a little more specifics about that, but I'll cover that. I want to talk a little bit about the Brownfield redevelopment side. As Marcus said, there's a couple of layers to this project that we want to describe all in one time. And talk about the obsolete property rehabilitation. That's a second sort of component to that. There's two components to that, the establishment of the district and then the approval of the application for the project itself. So we're going to kind of run through all of those as well. I'll talk a little bit about the process and approvals as well. So just a quick note, I think everybody might know where the facility is in downtown Cadillac on the corner of North Mitchell and Bremer. It's at 423 North Mitchell, includes the former Speeds Automotive facility and also the property on Bremer Street that is to the northwest of the project. So, the building was built in the early 1900s and is functionally obsolete, as declared by the city assessor. Can no longer be used for its intended purpose. As well, it's a surprisingly large building, especially when you walk through it. 14,000 square feet with 2 stories, as well as a basement that's in the property as well. The developers are Lee Richards and Elizabeth Schneider. Lee has a long history in town, as I'm sure many of you know. So it's great to have a local individual that's willing to invest in the community. It is an adaptive reuse project for the building itself. It will remain intact, but be totally redone for a mixed-use project. There's proposed to be 14 apartments on the project. That part of the building will be about 9,000 square feet, so a majority of it will be for residential housing, and it'll be about 5,000 square feet for a commercial new restaurant in town as well. Really, the project kind of requires, everybody's familiar with the term gutting. It's kind of a full gut, is that it really takes new electrical, new plumbing, HVAC, new walls, new doors, entrances, and windows, along with exterior refurbishment that's going to take place as well. So a pretty big renovation and remodeling job, and all of that is a total investment of approximately $3 million, so a pretty significant investment in town as well. There are some challenges to that project, as you can imagine. There's significant asbestos abatement and demolition that's necessary for the project. Plus, as we all know, the cost of construction and renovation is very significant in these projects. And the challenge to this project is that the rents, the revenues that will be generated by the residential and commercial properties just won't meet the construction operating cost. It doesn't pan out. And so, as a result, this project would not proceed without some kind of economic development incentives to help close that gap between the revenues and expenditures of the project. Those economic development incentives, they're kind of twofold. One is brownfield TIF reimbursement for the abatement and demolition costs as well, and you all are mostly familiar. Brownfield has been used many times within the city with great success. And then there's a tax abatement of local taxes through the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act as well. So those are kind of the combination of incentives that are being provided to the project with your approval. Each of these, of course, as you begin to get economic incentives and public investment in a project, there is a public purpose that needs to be found, and these are the increased investment and tax base that will come to the project. Certainly there is, some investment by the city in terms of foregone taxes, but those investments will pay out significantly in future years. It really is to redevelop obsolete property, which is essentially vacant in this, and I think kind of importantly that we're providing downtown housing for the missing middle folks, people not low income or Section 8, not high end condos, but those folks that are really looking for housing within the city. Provides additional employment with the new commercial enterprise, the residential enterprise, and think that this will create some opportunities for spin-off redevelopment as these improvements take place. I've been doing this for a little while around the state, and you see when these projects happen, you see adjacent properties say, hey man, we better step up our game a little bit. There's new opportunities. You raise the level of investment with that spin-off redevelopment, and those revenues do come to the city as well. So for brownfield redevelopment, it falls under the Act 3D1, the PA 1996 as amended, been around for a long time. That really provides reimbursement for eligible activities, certain eligible activities on certain eligible property through tax increment financing. So the North Mitchell property qualifies as eligible property of functionally obsolete. A property has to be contaminated, blighted, functionally obsolete, or historic to qualify as brownfield eligible property. There are eligible activities, both environmental and non-environmental. There aren't any environmental activities related to this, but they're non-environmental activities of asbestos abatement and demolition, primarily in that. And while the local taxes are going to be abated, and that's kind of a challenge, this depends on increased taxes to be captured and reimbursed. The OPRA will be abating the taxes for the local for a period of time, but state taxes can still be captured and used to reimburse those eligible activities. And really one of the main advantages is we're bringing in some state resources to help economic development in downtown Cadillac. So the approval process, the brownfield plan is prepared, and what that does is defines the eligible property. As we've said, those two parcels that are there, details those eligible activities of asbestos abatement and demolition primarily, and then estimates the impact on taxing jurisdictions based on the investment, how long will it take to pay this off, and then return those dollars back to taxing jurisdictions. It has to be approved by the Brownfield Authority, which they did on December 2nd. An interlocal agreement has to be approved by the Downtown Development Authority because this lies within the DDA. They have first rights to all new capture that happen. And so there's cooperative agreements. We've had a number of those agreements as well with the DDA where they understand the ability for us to match the dollars from the state. The state requires us to match those dollars and provides the opportunity for us to gather those dollars together to reimburse those brownfield eligible activity costs that weren't able to meet in December, but that action is anticipated in January there. It also requires notices to taxing jurisdictions, which have been done. Worked with Sandy on that. This public hearing held by the City Council, and then a resolution approved by the City Council. So that really is the local process as well. They're also seeking we're also seeking state tax capture dollars for that, and there's a process to go to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and Michigan Strategic Fund to approve that state tax capture through a separate process. That is hoped for soon, but within the springtime. Kind of depends on their process and getting all the information together. So that's the brownfield component of that.
Nick, the only thing I wanted to add to everything that you said is that hand in hand along the way with the Brownfield Authority, the city, the developer, has also been the state of Michigan. They've participated in collaborative meetings working on this public-private partnership. Otherwise, we wouldn't necessarily even be able to be here tonight if not knowing that they're supportive, they being the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, is supportive of this whole initiative. So doesn't guarantee that they approve it, just means that they're supportive in terms of moving it forward. The local level approvals have to come first, then it goes to the state, and then they do their thing. So.
Yep, and the project has been vetted at the state. There's quite a process to go through and a lot of documentation that's necessary for their capture or for their approval as well. So, but we have an understanding that that's supportive of the project among their staff. So. On the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act that was passed in 2000, Act 146, and what that basically does is freezes the taxable value at the level before renovation for local taxes only. State taxes will continue to be based on the full assessment there, but local taxes will be abated and basically hold for a period of 12 years in this case as well. After 12 years, that local property tax assessment taxes will be based on that new assessment, that new assessed value, and generate those dollars. Some of those new dollars for a period of time, about 8 years, are going to come back to reimburse the brownfield eligible costs. After that time period, they'll go on to the taxing jurisdictions. For the approval process, there's two kind of components to that. And I think you all have had some familiarity. This tool was used on Cobbs Mitchell. It's comparable to the Community Rehabilitation Act and Community Revitalization Act that the board took some steps to establish those districts. So it's two components. One, to establish the district. We had a request to establish that open district by the developers. There's a notice to the property owner, which is in this case just one property owner, and the assessor as well. In the establishment of the district, the City Council holds a public hearing, which you're doing tonight, and establishes the OPRA district. The second part of that is an application for the OPRA exemption certificate, actually by project, and that has been filed as well. Notices to taxing jurisdictions went out as well. City Council is holding a public hearing tonight, and then the council approves the application. There also is a requirement that the State Tax Commission approves the application, so it has to, after this point in time, go on to the State Tax Commission, and they walk through the process to approve the application. So those are kind of the two components. I'll just do a quick piece on how these sort of fit together for the Brownfield TIF financing and the OPRA. This is the level of taxes that are currently, this is the initial taxable value, the frozen taxable value for that project. So if there was no development, this essentially is what the tax generation will be in that case. So for the first 12 years, again, the local taxes are abated, so state taxes are captured, and then reimbursed for those approved eligible activity costs. After the abatement period ends, then local taxes go back up to that assessed value. So both state and local taxes are captured for a period of time. There is an opportunity to take local taxes and put that into a local brownfield revolving fund to help support projects throughout the community. And then after that point in time, those taxes go back to the taxing jurisdictions. So for that period, this is just kind of sort of the brownfield plan timeframe. But obviously, after that time period, those taxes continue after that 30-year period. So, kind of key considerations about the project is that really it would not proceed without incentives. Part of the state process is you have to kind of lay out all your finances in a very detailed pro forma. And Lee can probably tell you that it's pretty marginal even with it, but impossible without these incentives. The current property taxes are about $5,700 or so, and those would continue to go to the taxing jurisdictions just as they are. So if there's no development, there's no change in that. And as I mentioned, the Brownfield TIF really leverages the local abatement and local taxes with state tax capture. So we're getting essentially a long-term $246,000 state grant to help support economic development within the community. Brownfield is unique in that we can capture state taxes. Schools and the intermediate school district are held harmless for Brownfield TIF capture, so they continue to get their funding in that case. And then after all the incentives are completed and the project is paid off, it's going to provide about $42,000 per year in property taxes to the taxing jurisdictions. So we go from about $7,000 to $42,000 per year. Not the number that Lee wants to hear, but that's the number that's going to be there. So.
Thank you.
And I think, in addition, that really it renovates a mostly vacant building and provides housing and a new restaurant in town. It's a great activity, bring residences down, a new opportunity for that as well.
Entirely
vacant. Entirely vacant. I didn't want to be presumptuous, but
Mac or Lee, were you going to just quickly show us those poster boards or walk us?
Yeah, I can, whenever you want, I can step in.
Yeah, I'll just drop off in the piece here that again, as Marcus said, we have 3 public hearings, one for the Brownfield plan, one for the Oprah district establishment, and then one for the application for the exemption certificate. And again, you have 3 actions before you too: the resolution to approve the Brownfield plan, the resolution to establish the Oprah district, and the resolution to approve the application for the Oprah exemption certificate. So kind of with that, I'll turn it over to Lee, and he can talk a little bit about the project and show us stuff.
Thank you, Mac.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. And thanks to the council and to everyone for giving us the time and consideration. A lot of you know me. I've been a long-term resident of Cadillac, 20-plus years in Cadillac, 33 years at Avon Automotive, or some version of Cadillac Rubber and Plastics, Avon Automotive, Ackwell. Retired at middle of 2020. It was an interesting time to retire. So my wife and I, Elizabeth, who is the other part of our business, it's her and I, and that's it. We own 5 properties now in Cadillac. 4 of them are fully developed, fully used. All of them are on 3 of the 4 that are finished are on Mitchell Street. The most recent one is 305 North Mitchell, which is across from Blue Heron. Used to have kind of a big ugly sign on it that said Denali Healthcare, and it's now, I think, a really nice building, Generations Financial Services. It's been put back into really good use, and this sort of really helps in that block, or it's 300, 400 block, but it's really kind of one continuous block. We've seen some really nice development there with the G&D, new G&D party store and pizza place there. Huge investment that really helped that area. We've seen quite a bit of investment in that block. And when we bought this building at the end of last year, didn't really know what we were going to do with it, but it was a solid building. It's a very big building. It's right on Mitchell Street. It had the advantage that we bought with it a property off Mitchell Street across the road on Bremer that's contiguous to the back of the property to the north, and it's got a very derelict building on it, an old railroad building. And by taking that building down, building a parking lot there, in finishing this building. I think, Owen, can you click on the kind of the rendering of the building? That picture there, yeah. So it really makes a huge difference in the north end of that block, and I think really anchors that block. So that's the idea. The idea of doing 14 apartments and a commercial space seemed a bit of a stretch, to be fair, at the beginning. Construction costs, especially where they are these days, it is for us an enormously expensive undertaking. But we pushed on. I know there's a huge need for housing in Cadillac, everywhere really, but especially here. And we know we have a supportive city, and so it seemed like something we really should go down the well and see if it was possible to do. We spent the last 12 months really working on this process, working through the Brownfield, working through the Oprah, working with the MEDC on what's called a CRP, which is a community redevelopment program. And combined with all that, it gets us to what we believe will be a reasonable project. It's not going to be the biggest money maker we have, but I think it is going to be a very important project for Cadillac. But for something like this, that building, which has been a long time part of Cadillac, really isn't going to go anywhere. So, I said we purchased it. Our intention is to do 14 apartments. You can kind of see, and I'll leave these boards if you guys want to look at them later, but you can kind of see the second floor. There are 9 apartments in the second floor. There's an elevator in the plan. 5 apartments on the back side of the ground floor. Commercial space will be a restaurant. That space is already leased. And then underneath that, there is a basement under about 60% of the building, which is a combination of additional restaurant space and storage units that are linked to the apartment. So each apartment will also have about a 50 square foot storage unit that goes with the apartment, accessible by the elevator. So it is a rather derelict property, I have to say, but it's a property that has really good bones. It's made in a really industrial way, so it's concrete and steel for the most part, especially on the newer part of it, which is the front 60%. So it really gives us some opportunities to really make something exciting out of this property. So I don't know if you have any questions. We're excited about it. We would, if everything goes well, especially with the state grant that has to go to the Michigan Strategic Fund, we think we're in a good position there. We've had a lot of meetings with the state. They're excited about it. They're frankly very excited about Cadillac. So that really helps underpin it because they want to do it. They want to support it. We would kick off construction. We've already kicked off design. We would kick off construction spring with an eye to having the thing fully leased out and finished in about 12 months from that point. So, but it's important to us to get it kicked off in the spring because we've got a lot of work to do outdoors, and we have winters here, so can't do a lot in the winter. So, I don't want to take any more of your time than necessary. So, anybody have any questions? I'm here.
Thank you.
Hearing none, I leave it to you. Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we'll open the floor for the first public hearing, which is to consider adoption of a resolution approving the Brownfield plan for this property. And this would be time for any public comment that you would have in regards to that. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council for any discussion or motions.
Absent any discussion, I'd go ahead and make the motion to adopt the resolution approving the Brownfield plan for 423 North Mitchell redevelopment.
Support.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Support.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Ellenboss,
Yes.
Ingalls.
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, and at this time, we'll open the floor for public comment as it relates to considering the adoption of a resolution establishing an OPR, which is the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation District for this property. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment, and same as the first.
I'll go on a roll. I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt the resolution establishing an obsolete property rehabilitation district for 423 North Mitchell redevelopment.
I'll second that. Thank you.
Councilmember Shippers,
Yes.
Ellenboss,
Yes.
Ingalls,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, this time we'll open public comment as it relates to considering the adoption of a resolution to approve an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate application for this property. Not seeing anyone, we'll close public comment and go back to discussion or a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt the resolution to approve an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate application for 423 North Mitchell redevelopment.
I'll support that.
Councilmember Ellenboss,
Yes.
Ingalls,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Marcus, I'll take it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The next two public hearings are with respect to consideration regarding ratification of recommendations from the Planning Commission pertaining to both the recreational marijuana ordinance and medical marijuana ordinance. And similar as to before, I'll make remarks regarding both as to not be duplicative. And then you'll have two public hearings to go through accordingly. To just bring things back to council in terms of a quick refresher, generally speaking, perhaps 2 to 2.5, 3 years ago, the city of Cadillac City Council made a policy determination to get involved within the marijuana industry in terms of providing regulatory code to accommodate various uses. At the time that the City Council put ordinances in place, which, mind you, have also been amended from time to time to be accommodating based upon how things have changed over time. On, I want to say, 2 occasions for sure, maybe 3 at this point. The city established one available license type for all categories with the exception of 2 available licenses for a recreational retail facility as well as 2 available licenses for a medical retail facility. The city further did not establish any licensing for any type of consumption-based facilities or consumption-based special events. The city to date has issued both licenses for the recreational retail type facilities. There are 2 recreational retail type facilities actually now open. We have issued 2 licenses for medical retail type facilities. Neither one at this point are open, and that's a whole different discussion for another day. And we have also issued the one available license for a micro business that falls under the recreational classification. And we've also issued one available license for a Class C adult use growing operation, which at this point, and this brings us to why we're really kind of here today, has yet to be able to move forward with actually building a facility. What we've learned over the last couple of years is that the restrictive nature of the code as it sits today does not necessarily create the environment that would allow for the industrial type uses to actually happen. The industrial type uses our code defines, and I'm going to try to go by memory here, but that would be your your growing or your cultivation centers. As an aside, the city does not allow for any of that to be outdoors. It all has to be an indoor facility. Secure transporters, laboratory testing, processing. Is there another classification off the top of your head?
No.
Lab testing, secure transporters, growing, processing, and then the micro business.
Yeah.
So the city identified all of those uses as uses that would be best allowed in the industrial zone of the city. That's basically what City Council requested. It went to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission agreed, and when they created the zoning layer, that's how they put it in. And this, again, goes back a few years ago. Where we're at today, though, we've realized that the same or similar spatial separation issues that we have, as a for instance, with respect to retail-type facilities, also applying that to industrial-type facilities just simply doesn't work because it takes property out of contention, whereby any other industrial use that we have, we don't regulate in that way. And what I mean by that is that regardless of what the industrial facility is, regardless of what materials are being produced or being manufactured, regardless of noise or odors or anything, or traffic, you name it, whatever the impact is, it is, there is no further rule or restriction in place for that use for any of the industrial sites other than what would otherwise be normally in place, which would still be in place for these uses when it comes to setbacks and building practices and all of those similar things. These sites would not be treated any different than any other industrial site that we have within the city. The only exception to that, I would add, is that the Planning Commission did say not to put it adjacent to a school property. So that would be the only exception to what I had just mentioned. The City Council already went through a public process and amended the regulatory provisions of our code to allow for there not to be any restriction on licensing. What we've learned is that in order for these growing facilities to essentially function, there needs to be layering of different licensing in place to accommodate that use. The state of Michigan created the licensing types and the rules that go with it. Likewise, the state of Michigan created the need for environmental scrubbers and everything of the like. So they would have to still abide by all of those regulations. The city is not getting rid of or getting away with any mandates that are required. Regarding odors being emanated, we did take a tour of the Everett facility. The Everett facility has several 100,000 square feet of indoor cultivation, as well as an outdoor cultivation space. We did not see the outdoor cultivation space. I personally toured that facility on 2 occasions, approximately 5 weeks apart from each other. The first time I toured the facility, I didn't detect or notice any odors emanating from it. Certainly when you're in it, you could smell the products that they're growing. The second time I toured the facility, I toured it with a couple of members of City Council, along with a Planning Commission member, along with a member that represents our Cadillac industrial area, specifically our industrial fund and our Cadillac area industrial group. And without a doubt, you could smell some odors emanating from the facility from the exterior. I had asked the plant manager while there why the difference, and the response I received back was approximately every 9 weeks when they go to harvest, the odors are stronger. That could be one reason, and because they also had one of their doors that was open as well. So I'm not trying to pretend to be a marijuana expert. I don't know how to grow them or how to harvest them. and have not been around the industry to know if that is the same with every facility or not. But there certainly was an odor that was detectable from the outside. The gate had to have been at least 100 feet from the door. That being said, we do have industry, and we're very fortunate to have industry today that emanates noise, smells, traffic, and all sorts of other things as well. And so, it's difficult when you're trying to compare apples to oranges based on uses, which is why the recommendation is to not do that. But I can also essentially attest that comparing it to industry that pre-exists in Cadillac right now, the use in and of itself is rather inert in terms of it being a manufacturing type facility. These facilities will bring in, as I've been told, good paying jobs, and a number of jobs that run the spectrum of white collar work to blue collar work. The processing type portion of these facilities it's all done by hand, along with, of course, robots that automate the packaging and whatnot. But there's still a lot of hand processing work that goes along with harvesting the products that are then created, which bring jobs to the community, and it was all looked at as a positive. As I mentioned before, there was the chair of our industrial fund that went on the tour with us, also the chair of our industrial group, Mike Hamner, and he is here this evening. He also does run one of the local plants too. Not certain, Mike, if you wanted to mention anything regarding sentiment from Cadillac Industry about the use, but feel free.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Mike Hamner. I'm a president of the Cadillac Industrial Fund. I support the motion. I support the what's happening with our industrial zones. Cadillac's a unique area. We started in agriculture, started in forestry, and much of our definition is done by the industry that we have in town. 4,000 industrial jobs. Cadillac Industrial Fund's main purpose since the 50s has been to retain industry in Cadillac or attract it. So if we can retain our current businesses, so much the better. If we can retain or attract new ones, even more so. I think, as Marcus said, a lot of our facilities put out different odors, different, I can smell McBain when they're putting stuff on the fields. It's not every day. It's not always pleasant. But fortunately, I think our industry deserves every chance they can get to continue and to attract new industry. We'll never be the Cadillac that we have been and will continue to be if we don't do this. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And those also conclude my remarks. Otherwise, I'll just be retreading.
Okay.
I've already read it. I won't. So,
Okay.
thank you.
So we'll go ahead and open public comment as it relates to the first, considering the adoption of ordinance to amend section 46752 of the Cadillac City Code relating to recreation marijuana establishments.
Yes, I'd like to speak again. First of all, I need to address Mike Hamner. Where do you live? Lake Mitchell. You live on Lake Mitchell.
Excuse me,
right?
public comment.
Right,
addressed at
absolutely,
council.
but his address isn't written here, nor did he state it on here. And if I have to state it on here, he sure as heck needs to, okay? Okay, so you live up on the hill, Robert, where do you live?
We don't engage.
What street?
Right down the road.
Right down the road. Okay, are you gonna smell this if it's over by the solar panels? Probably not, okay? Mr. King, where do you live?
I live on Lake Cadillac and
There,
Four
there-
Winds and.
Sure, there you go. You've got people commenting, yes, we want it, yes, we want jobs. We absolutely want jobs. We just don't want a facility like that next to our neighborhoods. And Cadillac is a big town. We've got empty buildings. We have places this can go. And as far as, we don't have any more laws on it, or the state doesn't regulate this. This is a brand new industry. We have to come up with our own and make sure it's safe for our citizens, not and for our workers, but for also the people that live in the area where it's going to go. So we might write a brand new law. I don't know, but you guys got to think bigger than this. You have to. You can't just think the way you've always been thinking. You have to think beyond. Okay, how can we protect this and make it better? You have to make it better, not just stay stagnant and keep the same old laws that aren't protecting everybody. Thank you.
My last comment, Tom Warnock here. I'll address the board here. She's absolutely right. Absolutely right. I agree with this gentleman here. The job should stay. Build the facilities, not a problem. Bring in the people. They can fill the jobs. I'm 100% for that. However, not next to a residential area. There's plenty of property out there, plenty, where it could be built, where it could be cultivated, not a problem, but not across the tracks from a residential area. You realize, people, that you get that smell, that odor. Yes, and there is smell and odor. There is industrial noise and stuff, but we don't hear it there in my neighborhood. Do you guys realize that what's going to ultimately happen if you build that and you have that? What's going to happen? People are going to move out. The revenue's going to collapse in that area. The residential area will collapse. They will be gone. People will sell out. I've been there for almost 38 years. If this comes up, I might sell and get out. And this is exactly what's going to happen. Property values will plummet. So keep that in mind. What he says is great. What you say is great. That was great. Not a problem. But don't build it by a residential area. Put it in an industrial area. Move it out a bit so that people aren't subject to this kind of thing. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm on the right one here. No, what's really aggravating is that jobs. You know, we want to create more jobs. Now, this facility, if I'm not mistaken, is less than a half a mile away from the high school. Can anybody correct me on that? And I thought we were going to get this out of the area. We don't want it by the high school, by our youth of our community. But to my understanding, this new grow facility is going to be less than a half a mile away from the high school. They'll get the smell. Councilman Ingalls recently served as the swing vote on city council to allow the unlimited stacking of growing license for major marijuana grow operations to set up in the city of Cadillac. This changes the direction of the city, severely contradicts the earlier pledge to go slow. Why are we going so fast? Is there that much money to be made? You know, we got to go. You said at the very start that we were going to go slow on this endeavor. And on the marijuana license in Cadillac, because it was new to the community. I am concerned Ingalls and his two cohorts are going to vote to change the medical marijuana business that already been approved to allow these two additional businesses to sell recreational marijuana like the Looms and Doomgrass claims they already do. Do we really want a bigger portion of Cadillac to be zoned for unlimited corporate, industrial, factory, marijuana grow operations? And we really don't need it, you know? Everett, 20, 30 minutes away, let them go down there and get it. We got to keep this away from our youth. We got to keep it away from our high schools. And creating jobs, sure. But what happens when we create more jobs? We bring more people in. And what happens? We get crime. We get more drugs. And again, more meth, more heroin, more crime. Do we need this? Is this why Ingalls broke his ethics pledge to ensure that these 3 elected officials maintain their quorum on the board of the 5 seats? Unlimiting stacking of license was never considered before by the council, and now suddenly, after the last election, it passes with 3 votes. I smell something rotten here.
Hi, my name is Mike Hamner. I just spoke, but I just wanted to put my name and address up here.
To talk twice.
He's putting his address
Okay.
on the thing.
If I'm available for public comment, I'd like to make another comment.
You have another opportunity in the next public
Okay.
hearing to speak again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else, we'll close this public comment and move to any further discussion by the council or entertain a motion.
I have a few comments. That's, that's in my front yard. When this was first pitched to me, it was noted that it was going to go in the Cadillac Industrial Park or the Potvin Industrial Park or the Van Jack. And it's true that it is zoned 1-1 light industrial over by the solar panels. So you could put a factory in there. A factory that has emission control standards they have to abide by. The marijuana business has no emission control standards. There's one thing I noticed at Everett. They have no air scrubbers or anything to clean the air when the odor leaves, when the ventilation. I didn't hear anybody say anything about that. That's why the odor was so strong. Most of you know me, know I spent 2 years in Anchorage, and I got to see the marijuana legalization take off there and got to see the stumbling as they came out of the blocks. And there were several mistakes made. And one of the biggest mistakes was putting, and they had a 1,000-foot buffer between growing facilities and residential areas. And even with that, when I left in October 2017, the uproar had just started. So let me read you a couple headlines from the Anchorage News that I Googled. Headlines: the tricky task of policing marijuana odors. Number 2, Alaskan dispensaries are being fined for outside odors. They actually have somebody that, a big city, 375,000 people, they have more money. They have people that actually drive around after a complaint to go to the grow facility to see if it smells. If they can smell it, they get a ticket. We don't have that. There's nothing here. We're a small town. Another one, Cannabaska, that was one of the companies, growing companies, facing odor violations as industry talks of tough regulations. Well, we have one regulation in place of the 1,000 feet, and we're trying to get rid of that. Other states have the same problem. We've got dead skunk smell from marijuana farms outrage California residents. Colorado, the first state to legalize marijuana, was unprepared for the strong stench of agricultural production. I think Colorado didn't anticipate this odor issues prior to legalization. So we're walking a dangerous path here, people. And I have no problems with a multi-tiered facility, but as I said, we've got 3 industrial parks to put it. We don't have to put it in Mr. Warnock's backyard. I want jobs as much as anybody. I'm so happy to see Lee Richards renovating speeds, but this is just a mistake. I'm telling you, we don't want to go there. You just heard the headlines, and that's the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, that covers it. And think long and hard, because remember when they were going to burn tires here, and the people rose up and said no. So there you go. That's all I have to say on that. I think it's a mistake to put it anywhere near the solar panels in any residential area. Put it in the industrial park, make it as big as you want. That's fine. More jobs, I'm all for that. But residential neighborhood where I get to sit on my front yard and get high for free smelling it, okay, you can't do that. But I don't want to smell it all the time. And nobody here has that. It's easy for you to say, oh, that's not a problem. You don't have to live by it. we could always rezone that baseball field by your house, TI, and put it right there. It's not being used, is it? See how you like the smell then. But better be careful. You're opening up a can of worms here when you want to put it next to somebody's house. That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I thought long and hard on this because I respect people in their neighborhoods, in their homes. And I also respect that when we are dealing with businesses and industry, we have to do it in a level-handed fashion. And we don't want industry that could be in a spot that other businesses are in to be blocked for a simple fear. And my concern, and to go to Councilmember Ellenboss's thoughts, the technology that's there now is so far advanced. We're not dealing with open field agriculture. We're dealing with very high tech facilities that bring the high tech jobs. And I looked again today when I was flopping back and forth on what to do at the location at the old Mitchell Bentley plant. To see all the industry directly adjacent to it, which is Four Winds, which is the successor Avon Automotive, which is Rexair, with AAR on the other side. And I do, to the comments, I mean, sitting on Lake Cadillac, I get the smells of industry come right across the lake. And that's part of my choice of living there, because I chose to live in this community. I love this community. I want the community to thrive. But I'm also cognizant of we all want to be respectful of each other. So in coming down to the analysis of it, I don't want us not to do something out of just a blind fear of something we don't know. And that's why I'm glad we all kind of got the opportunity to see some of the technology that's out there, to see what these processes are, and to finally answer the question about not moving too fast. One of the biggest complaints I think about government is government entrenching itself, putting an ordinance in place, trying something out, and then not adapting. So I think it's critical that our ordinance are living documents, that we adapt them, that we change. And if we change and it's not a good change, there are opportunities to tweak and move. But I think it is important, especially when we see an area that was really blighted. I mean, the Mitchell Bentley burn down plant was such a blighted site, and now to have the opportunities, whether it is the enclosed manufacturing facility of a marijuana growing facility or another manufacturing plant, they both have to have equal opportunity to develop in zoning. It's a zoning issue. And develop in the zoning that was required in that area.
Nope, don't agree with you, Steve, this time.
That's okay.
I mean,
That's
you
okay.
know, they're going to be venting that outside. There's no scrubbers, there's no filtration. You go strictly outside, and I don't understand. I lived there since 2017, and maybe I've gone nose blind, but it doesn't smell there as bad as it used to when I was a kid growing up. Because the EPA, there's standards you have to go by if you're running a factory. Let me reiterate this again. There are no standards to grow marijuana. You can be as stinky as you want. There's just nothing. Go ahead. As far as I know.
And you might be 100% correct regarding what the state may or may not require. However, the way that the city several years ago established the code dictating these uses, it would require these uses to get a special use permit before they're allowed to open. And as a part of that special use permit process, requiring air scrubbers and other such filtration type devices to mitigate any odors and other.
You can tell me for sure concerning marijuana
Yes.
that those laws are in place.
Yeah,
Not just a factory. It's not a factory because they're growing things.
right.
It's a different setup. I mean,
Right. So what I'm saying is that for a marijuana-based business to actually open in Cadillac, whether it's a grower or a retail store, they still have to go through a special use permitting process.
I'd like
As a
to see
part
that.
of that process, that's when administratively we can require, in case the statute doesn't already require, if they're talking about something that's going to generate smells and whatnot, like a cultivation
What filtration
facility
are you
will.
going to use? What standards are you going to go by?
I wouldn't be expert to tell you that
Who
right
is?
here tonight.
Who is?
Well,
Who is in the city? If the city is enforcing this, who is our expert?
so we would take it through our community development department, and then we would use legal and any other consultant that we would need to, if we needed to have
So once the
boilerplate language.
once the
put in
complaints
place.
are,
Yeah. Sorry. I can't, it's too small, Mike. You want to just read it?
Yeah, so there's a section under your existing ordinance. It's 46-752, subsection 7. And it talks about marijuana establishments must control and eliminate odor as follows. The building must be equipped with an activated air scrubbing and carbon filtration system for odor control to ensure that air leaving the building through an exhaust vent first passes through an activated carbon filter and air scrubbing system. Filtration system must consist of one or more fans, activated carbon filters, be capable of scrubbing the air prior to leaving any building. At a minimum, the fans must be sized 4 cubic feet per minute, equivalent to the volume of the building, length multiplied by width, multiplied by height, divided by 3. The filters shall be rated for the applicable CFM. The air scrubbing and filtration system must be maintained in working order and must be in use at all times. Filters must be changed per manufacturer's recommendation to ensure optimal performance. Negative air pressure must be maintained inside the building. Doors and windows must remain closed except for minimum time length needed to allow people to ingress or egress the building. An alternative odor control system is permitted if the special use applicant submits a report by a mechanical engineer licensed in the state of Michigan sufficiently demonstrating that the alternative system will eliminate odor as well or better than the air scrubbing and carbon filtration system otherwise required.
that was for a retail facility? Go back to your first where you started at.
Talks about,
Retail facility?
all right, let me get back to that section. Marijuana establishments. That's
Right,
what,
that for me pertains to a retail facility, not a grow facility, which is entirely different. A retail facility would be easy to clean the air.
I don't
Hey.
think I don't think that, I
You don't
don't.
think that?
No, I
We're
think
gonna find out.
establishment would be anything having to do. And when we talked about this, we did talk about odor
Okay.
and how we do not want that to be in the community. And so we came up with the special use, and a marijuana establishment would be medical, recreational, or growing operations, or processing. I think we also talked about any processing operation, that would apply to this.
And then when the complaints start rolling in, who's gonna handle it?
so marijuana establishment is defined under section 10-2-01 as marijuana establishment means a marijuana grower, marijuana safety compliance establishment, marijuana processor, marijuana microbusiness, marijuana retailer, marijuana secure transporter, or any other type of marijuana-related business licensed by LARA under MRTMA.
And who's gonna handle the complaints when they start coming in?
Combination of your city staff, like we do today. We get complaints, unfortunately, from time to time on other industrial users right now, and oftentimes we'll go out and see if there's something we can do, but oftentimes council members.
We've got
don't want
openings
to.
in our
So-
industrial parks, there's no reason to put it next to a residential neighborhood. That's it?
This
That's
isn't I'm sorry, this isn't a rezoning, am I right?
No, you are correct.
This is, and as Steve said, this is making it compliant as other industries. Now, I think we have even more stringent in our code requirements because we were so concerned about odors
Right, we have.
when we first set this up.
A
so-
well-written.
So, thank you for not interrupting. And so what I'm seeing is that as a special use permit, these things will have to be in place before they are allowed to build. And if they're not going to be approved.
Well, we guarantee you it will smell. It doesn't matter, it's gonna stink. That's the bottom line. And it shouldn't be anywhere near a residential area. Excuse me, I'm probably jumping ahead to the next motion, but when we have industrial parks with empty spaces. I mean, why is everybody so hot to put it in next to the solar panels? I mean, all of a sudden it's become the issue of, okay, wow, we got some land, let's put it there. We have industrial parks, no residents buy there, put it there. I mean, no, we have to, why can't we put more solar panels with the solar panels?
Okay, is there any new discussion that we haven't already heard that we should take into consideration? Okay.
Not new discussion. I just want all of city council to know that the city is not picking and choosing any one place over another. The zone is, the industrial zone covers 3 areas, or I should say, within our industrial zone, there are several industrial parks. There's the Vanderjack Park, the Potvin Park, and what's called the Cadillac Industrial Park. This doesn't create a new zoning layer. This doesn't preclude anything within the zoning layer. So within those parks, there are available spaces that are privately held, that are publicly held. The space that's being talked about tonight is the one where the solar panels are. That's the one that we commonly or formally call the Mitchell-Bentley site. That is one site that is likely going to develop. Whether it develops with this use or another use is a hot site because it is got the largest number of contiguous acreage available currently within our, industrial zone, frankly. And there's only a couple of other sites that are like that that I could think of, but none of which are that big in terms of the number of acres available. So that's why it's an attractive location for any kind of development.
And can you describe again, like when a site is picked, the special use permit process briefly that I'll go through once?
Yeah, so regardless of what license classification, it could be a grower, it could be a processor, it could be anything, right? As a part of that approval, once the license is given, it's given on essentially a conditional basis. The state of Michigan still has to approve it. Additionally, the special use permit has to get approved in terms of the overall site plan and all of the specs, if you will, regarding what's going to be built, which, as the city attorney referenced a couple of moments ago, it involves multiple layers and complexities that require minimum standards to be in place. And so there's lots of them. Air scrubbers, infiltration is just one. But I don't disagree with Councilmember Ellenboss. You will have odors coming from this facility like you do coming from any facility. I personally smell and hear stuff all the time where I live, and we're a small community. I mean, depending upon the way the wind blows, you hear and smell things. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. So.
Okay.
Can I also address someone made a comment about school kids going by and their friends that work in the plant supplying them. I have never seen the kind of security I have at one other place, but the kind of security at the facility that we toured, there is no way that someone is going to be handing marijuana through the back door on their lunch break. Everything is so strictly secure so that nobody can take anything out or anything like that. So any fears about that and where it is related to... Don't interrupt me again or I'll poke you with my stick. I got a big stick, right? But I think that the facility would be so secure there would be no, folks aren't going to be passing things to kids through the back doors.
Can I talk now?
Give me a second. Okay.
We argue, but I always liked you.
I know, me too.
You missed the part where they said they give free marijuana to their employees. Steve, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think they're going to give that to high school kids?
Oh, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying they walk out the door with weed. They give it to them when they have a product they can't sell. Something happened to it, fell on the floor, and who knows what. They give it to their employees. It's a rarity, but it does happen. So they do walk outside with.
But they know exactly what they have, and it's
I'm
very secure.
not saying they give it away to kids. I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Would someone like to entertain a motion in this regard?
We have several, correct? I'll do the first motion to approve the resolution to adopt ordinance to amend Section 46-752 of the Cadillac City Code relating to recreational marijuana establishments.
Support.
Councilmember Ingalls,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes.
Ellenboss,
No.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. So at this time, we'll open the floor for the public comment as it relates to the hearing regarding considering the adoption of ordinance to amend section 46-753 of the Cadillac City Code relating to medical marijuana facilities. Brian, you can mute it.
Bring a little humor. Got a good book for everybody. Reefer Madness. There you go. That's kind of like where we're going right now. Again, nobody's addressing how close this is, and it's really upsetting me how close these facilities are going to be to the high school and to our youth of our community. What the City of Cadillac City Council and City Manager is doing is continuing to amend city ordinances. It's unacceptable to the citizens of Cadillac and to the community. The citizens of Cadillac should not allow the favoring of marijuana facilities to operate in Cadillac. And again, if we're going to deal out license, they should be more local. Marijuana is legal, so yeah, this is going to happen. So anyways, to allow these manufacturing facilities to operate in Cadillac, we, the citizens of Cadillac, do not need any more marijuana establishments in our city. And gosh darn it, I know you can't tell me, but you know how close it is to the high schools, and you guys got to take it slow. You said you were not going to put it close to the residents and to the high school and to the youth of our community. And I'm going to keep on emphasizing the youth. So, the citizens of Cadillac do not need any more establishments in Cadillac. In the city industrial park, Cadillac City Manager Pecha says seeing these large-scale marijuana facilities firsthand, up close and personal, hey, it's remarkable. Sure, what a beautiful thing. Whoever toured the Everett's facilities, did they have scrubbers and all that there to keep the smell down? So anyways, getting back to where I'm at, I got to write my stuff down. Okay, then the city manager seeing these large-scale men, well, let them keep the facilities. Again, I emphasize it, let them keep them in Everett. Keep them in the other surrounding communities. Cadillac does not need this. It's not that far for anybody to go get their medical marijuana. So, council, again, will consider amendment changes to zoning ordinances for stacking license for marijuana establishments. Citizens need to be adamant and oppose these changes with, again, meth, heroin, cocaine at its all-time high in our community. This is where we are today. Now we're talking marijuana. Our youth are witnessing this firsthand, all what's going on, and it's just a dang shame. You know, just for once, let's just say no. No. Our youth are the biggest commodity of our community. And look what's happening. And with meth, our jails are full again, built a brand new jail.
Mr. Lindell, your 3 minutes are up.
All right.
Oh, wait, it's.
Oh, it's 6, actually.
Sorry.
I'm wrong. You have 3 more minutes. I apologize.
Good, let me read a little bit of Reefer Madness. Oh, no, I'll just finish it. Just once, just say no. Crime and drug activities have increased 100-fold in our community. Gosh darn it, we have to stop it. We really do. You know, with the current city administration these past 10 years, crime has increased 100-fold, and the citizens of Cadillac do not deserve this type of leadership from our council and our administrators. And so, and just on a lighter note, how can you tell if a politician or a lawyer, except for Mr. King and Homer, is fibbing?
Okay, not seeing anyone else, we'll close public comment as it relates to the second hearing. And for any discussion or motions.
Oh, I have to talk. I have to. This is where you want to get rid of the 1,000-foot buffer, correct, Marcus?
It's 500-foot
500.
buffer.
And
Yes.
you want to get rid of that.
The planning commission recommended the removal of the 500-foot buffer with the addition of the provision of not making it permissible adjacent to a school facility.
I don't know any grow facility that I Googled or any of the, there's always a buffer zone, and it's there for a purpose. And again, it's the odor. They want this place secluded, and the only reason we're getting rid of this is so you can put it in with the solar panels, as far as I'm concerned. It's just not right to not have a buffer zone, and 500 feet is nothing. It should be 1,000 feet, because most of them are 1,000 feet, and not to have any buffer zone is just bad business. It's not good, and I'll be short and brief, that's all.
I believe it's 500.
I thought it was 1,000, according to the motion.
It's 500 currently.
Wait a minute.
But it does remove it, and then the recommendation has it in place for the, again, not being adjacent to.
A facility other than a provisioning center may not be located within 1,000 feet of a public or private K-2 school. A facility may be located within 1,000 feet. So 1,000 keeps popping up. But to get rid of a buffer zone is just insane. It's not right. It's bad business. We've got industrial parks for this. So that's all.
Oh, sure.
Okay, is there any further discussion, or would someone like to entertain a motion?
You were right, Brian.
Processor.
Sorry.
That's school, that's a processor.
Now they're saying,
1,000 feet of a school,
right.
and this is.
Now
I'll go
they're-
ahead and
now they're
make
saying
the
it's okay
motion
be
to
within
approve the
1,000.
resolution to adopt the ordinance to amend section 46753 of the Cadillac City Code relating to medical marijuana facilities.
Support.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes.
Ellenboss,
A hard no.
Ingalls,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries.
One
Okay,
more.
and that takes us to the city manager's report.
One more hearing, Mayor.
Oh, I apologize. Oh, you're right.
Yep.
Go ahead.
The final public hearing this evening is with respect to the consideration of the adoption of a resolution to approve an amendment to the development and tax increment financing plan for the Harry Vanderjagt Industrial Park. This was presented at the city council's at the city council meeting in November, where we set the public hearing. This has to do specifically with the Local Development Finance Authority and with the need to extend the TIF plan for 2 years. Note that that is still just a placeholder. Once the city has better information from the EPA regarding the eventual turn down clock for the wells that are out in that area, we'll have to go back and re-amend that TIF plan for the period of time accordingly to keep it operational. This TIF, or this tax increment financing area, allows for the continuation of the Local Development Finance Authority to clean the groundwater that's in the industrial zone and the industrial park. The extension of this TIF plan does not have any impact in any way, shape, or form on any of the industry that's there. There used to be a special assessment. That special assessment has not been in place for a handful of years. It is something that we are working on a communications piece to get back to industry, because at some point in 2022, we will be looking at implementing the special assessment either then or perhaps for 2023, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight. This simply allows for the city to be able to still utilize a portion of the property taxes that are collected from that site to fund the operations of the Local Development Finance Authority, which is a requirement that we have to do in order to continue to treat the groundwater from that area.
Okay. All right, at this time, we'll open public comment as it relates to the considering the adoption. I'm having trouble with that tonight. Considering the adoption of a resolution to approve the amendment to development and tax increment financing plan for the Harry Vanderjack Industrial Park.
I'd make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Yeah.
To wait to see.
Oh, I'm sorry.
First, yeah.
Thank you.
Seeing no one, we'll close public comment and move to discussion or a motion.
I'd make a motion to adopt the resolution to approve amendment to development and tax increment financing for the Harry Vanderjack Industrial Park.
Support.
Councilmember Shippers,
Yes.
Ellenboss,
I can vote yes on this.
Ingalls,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. And now that takes us to the city manager's report.
Yes, thank you. And I am just catching up on my paperwork here for a half a second. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The Cadillac Housing Commission compensation change request is before you this evening. For perhaps all of you at this point, this might look somewhat familiar. We essentially are their fiduciary and need to approve these changes. By no means does this have any impact on any funding within the city's coffer. The paperwork within the public packet states how they're looking at providing their public housing specialist a $2 an hour pay raise starting January 1st of 2022. Additionally, a 5% increase for all other Housing Commission staff effective January 1st of 2022 as well. And the recommendation this evening would be to approve their request as they presented it in our documentation.
I'll make that motion to approve the compensation change request from the Cadillac Housing Commission as presented.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Ellenboss,
Yes.
Ingalls,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The next request, again, it's another customary request with respect to the adoption of the City Council's calendar year 2022 council meeting schedule. For the most part, it's all very similar as you have had in the past. There are a couple exemptions from that. One is in let me see here, November, regarding the meeting dates being changed due to the election. We're looking at scheduling one regular meeting for the third Monday of November 21, due to the state's general election. In September, we're looking at having the Monday meeting on Tuesday due to Labor Day. In August, looking at having a meeting on August 15th, which would be the third Monday, again, due to the election being earlier in that month. That election I'm referring to is a primary. Likewise, in July, looking at having the meeting scheduled for that month being the third Monday of July. In February, looking at having our second meeting of that month actually on a Tuesday due to the President's Day holiday. And then similarly, in January, looking at having the first meeting of the month on January 18th. Likewise, having the, yes, January 18th, sorry, thank you, due to the Martin Luther King Day holiday on that Monday. So the real only change that you're seeing in this one is the President's Day holiday, which was recently added, and then the primary election coming up this year. So
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the calendar year 2022 council meeting schedule as presented.
Support.
Councilmember Ingalls?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Shippers?
Yes.
Ellenboss?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The next item is required reporting out of an emergency expenditure we had to make for an integral part of the wastewater treatment facility. The digester had a major issue occur to it when we were doing routine cleaning. We had estimated to be well under the administrative spending authority limit that we have, which is $7,500, estimated to be approximately $5,000. However, as they got into the cleaning, and this is something that we had to have them finish doing in order to keep the plant from dying, it turned out that instead of there being 30,000 gallons of material that they had to clean 175,000 gallons of material due to a component within the digester itself that was no longer functioning. And we had no idea, nor did the contractor have any idea until they were already essentially in the muck, getting the system cleaned out. That led to us expending significantly more than the $5,000. It led to us spending $20,375 from our utilities fund in order to clean the digester and keep it operational. And as required by our own code, I needed to report this out to council as soon as that had happened. So there is no action for council to take. If there's any questions, our utilities director, I think, is still here waving in the background this evening. So.
Can I just say, glad you caught it?
Yes.
Nobody notices the digester until it's not working.
Thank you. Moving on, unless there's any questions.
I don't think so.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The final item under the City Manager's report this evening is in regard to an updated Foster Swift engagement letter. Foster Swift, as everybody knows, is the law firm the city uses. Mike Homier is our principal attorney. They've been providing services to the city of Cadillac now for approximately 11 plus years at this point. Is a part of an evergreening agreement that we have. There has not been any cost of living adjustment or rate adjustment to that agreement since its inception. The request that our city attorney has brought forward for council to consider this evening would be to add an adjustment multiplier to our agreement, and essentially to restate the agreement with that amendment in it. The adjustment multiplier would be to add a 3% adjustment or CPI, whichever the higher, is a part of that language. City staff didn't necessarily have any concerns with the level of the request and appropriately so, are bringing it forward to City Council this evening. There is somewhat of a question that we have in terms of how we can best move this type of item forward or not. We generally, per our code, waive competitive bidding for professional services. That waiver does require a unanimous vote from all council members present at a meeting in order for it to go through. Then secondary action would be to approve the agreement as is or as amended. If the waiver is not approved, then the plan B would be we would have to go and essentially issue public bids again for those services, at which point in time City Council would be able to consider the results of that bidding and make a determination of award of contract or agreement, regardless of amounts. It doesn't require any other special voting or anything. So, sorry if I seem to have rambled with that. But Mike, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think our letter speaks for itself. I appreciate the opportunity. We've kept rates stagnant for 11 years. I've worked very hard to do that. But with the inflationary pressures and the costs of doing business, it's just time to right-size that rate as best I could. What we did was we simply went from 175 to 200 on the general work, but we kept the other rate for litigation the same. We did not raise that. And then included this percentage increase annually so that we can get back on some sort of course in trying to match those expenses with the rates. So, but obviously I'm not a disinterested party here, so the City Council needs to make that decision. But I appreciate the opportunity. I can't believe it's been 11 years already. And I think we've served the city well over that 11 years.
Point of discussion?
Point of discussion?
I think that Mike and his firm has done a wonderful job. However, I think that is part of our fiduciary duty not bidding it out. After 11 years, I had expressed, actually I talked to Mike about it, if it was 4 years, I still see it in the purview that we could waive competitive bidding and move forward. I think after 11 years, it's kind of our requirement to the citizens to say it should go out for a bid and see what happens. And I think it would only delay this process probably till our first meeting in February would be what it would take to review the bids. And I just think we owe it to the citizens not to waive competitive bidding and see what the bids come back at.
So my question with that is, with the letter where the fees and cost of living increases is already public, how would that affect a bidding?
My personal opinion is because firms that do this type of work generally work in the similar constructs, just as that technically. They could ask for these increases at any point during the process year to year. But now that we're at a point where we need to consider increases, again, it doesn't bother me, but we had an increase of expenses of over $51,000 from last year on our general legal expenses. I think it's our duty to say we're going to put it out for a bid. I'm highly confident Mike will put in a bid that's very competitive, but we need to see what else is out there.
Yeah, I've been very happy with you too, Mike. But yeah, 10 years does seem like a long time, so. Yeah. And we need 5 people to waive bidding, is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So it looks like we don't have the 5 then.
Moving on.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Do we have to make a motion to table that, or do we just move past it?
No, we need to,
I can give it a shot. I'd make a motion at this point to have city staff bid out for professional legal services pursuant to, I think it's the same in section 2-299 open paren D, closed paren, so that the council has the ability to review bids.
Support.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes.
Ellenboss,
Yes.
Ingalls,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. All right, in our packets this evening, we do have the minutes and reports from the last Planning Commission meeting and also the Historic District Commission. This time, we'll open the floor for our last public comment. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment and move to the good of the order if anyone has anything this evening.
You?
I have a, like youth council stuff. We had 3 potential new members come to our last meeting. We've also worked on amending the bylaws, updating the bylaws, and updating the application process to make it more accessible. And our bylaws needed some upgrading because we just need to change. So things are looking good with Youth Council, and we're hoping to be inducting some new members at the January meeting. If anyone would like to come and attend that, it's a lovely thing. So, yay, Youth Council.
Good.
I'll be brief. I won't beat the dead horse much deader. I've never heard of any grow facility that has no buffer zone. I'm disappointed that we're not going to be putting it into the Vanderjack or one of our other places, the parks. I know quite a bit about this situation, and we're opening a can of worms if you want to put it by the solar farm. It's going to be a mistake, but that's it. We'll wrap it up on that note.
Hearing no one? Okay, well, I would just like to say Merry Christmas to everyone. And just a huge thank you to the council, the staff, and the city staff, and to Mike for all of the great work that has happened over the last year. Every year that we've been here and had the opportunity for the final meeting of the year, it's just a privilege to see the good things that go on by the work of this staff and this council. And so I just wanted to say personally thank you very much. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll adjourn.